So my name is Santee Ezell. I am the Assistant Director of Health Promotion and Wellness at Mississippi State. I oversee sexual assault services, so that include domestic violence, rape, sexual assault, focus on healthy relationships, unhealthy relationships. So kind of anything that ties into those areas when it comes to relationship violence, even as well as stalking. So I have been in this position almost a year. Before then, we have had great assistant directors to kind of lead this programming. So some of the current things that we do, of course, is the current campaigns. So we do look at the red zone, which is from the first week of class to Thanksgiving. Most of sexual assaults actually happen on campus during that time. We also do Domestic Violence Awareness Month. We do Take the Pledge, those type of prevention programs and workshops. You have Stalking Awareness Month, and of course, we're in Sexual Assault Awareness Month, and we're doing this virtually. So there are just a lot of different things that we do. I do like to tell people up front, these are some heavy topics. So sometimes we have to debrief just because we talk about things that are shine light on things that are happening on college campuses. So those are just some of the things that we have done. I know even for this month, I wanted to do some workshops. So we've got our bystander intervention program back, which is now Step Up State. So those are just some of the things that we have actually done in the past. I'm pretty sure you saw our clothesline project on the drill field. So that's been one of our biggest projects. I think one of the biggest things we can do is provide education. So often people don't know what the education is or what does awareness look like. I think for us, we're trying to be very strategic about our programming. So not just a hit and miss or trying to check off a box, but being more strategic about what that programming looks like. I think students also have to understand what are the resources, and if this ever happens to you, you know the next steps. So some of those resources on campus, we have an advocate in the Student Counseling Center. We do have Title IX that gets involved. We do have Dean of Students, and of course the police department. Even if a person does not want to file a complaint or anything about anything that happened, they do have the right to talk with the advocate about what happened. I think the biggest thing that people, the biggest mistake we think is it doesn't happen on our college campus or it won't happen here, but it actually does. Now, our numbers may not be as high as other institutions, but it do happen. So I think just being aware and providing the education and with those resources that we have on campus. And to definitely answer your other question, I know the Student Counseling Center is very busy, but we do try to direct them to the counseling center because they do have support groups. They do have great counselors who are there to talk with them. One of the things that I have tried to look into just doing research is larger institutions and even other institutions in the SEC have a full advocacy team. And so what does that look like on our college campus? You know, I would love to see more advocates on our campus. I would love to see students involved in the advocacy team. And so I also wanted to add, we have a coordinated community response team that is under our department. And so we meet not monthly. We meet on a semi-quarterly basis. So we meet every semester to kind of talk about ways to reduce. And so I have had the opportunity to have the SGA president to be a part of that. And I think that is the solution, is including students, because they are the ones who are being affected. And so those are just some of the things. And then I think with mental health effects, I think being a support to the survivor, we don't call them victims, but then also being a support to the survivor's friends, because they have to deal with that as well. So the next immediate steps is definitely ensure that you're safe. If you do feel comfortable calling someone, make sure you make contact with them immediately. But number one, always make sure that you are safe. Definitely get medical attention, because if things move forward into a complaint, a case, all of that goes into play with that. So from DNA, from clothing, just that entire situation on how it led up to the sexual assault is very important. But we want people to make sure they're safe, make sure they're comfortable, as well as being kind of knowing what your resources are as well. So we do utilize campus and community resources. Some of those community resources is Starkville Police Department.
Mhm.
We do utilize OCH as well. But then on campus, we definitely have Title IX. We have Dean of Students, as
Mhm.
well as student counseling services, as well as our student health center. So those are just some of the resources that we do have in the community and on campus. However, we do encourage our students to definitely reach out to campus if they can, because we do have the MSU Safe Line that they can call, and that's literally 24/7 that they can make a call on there. One of the great things that we get to do is do prevention and health promotion. And so our partner, which is the counseling center, we're able to walk students over. So there are moments that students may be in distress. There are moments that they may be triggered due to that sexual assault, or just trying to heal. And so one of the things that we try not to do is do what the counseling center does, but we do try to be of support. And so what that looks like is just providing a safe space for them. I know students utilize my office on occasion just to come in and debrief, have a conversation. And so what we're trying to do is really create a safe space for students now, feel comfortable coming to talk about what is a healthy relationship or unhealthy.
Mhm.
Are you being stalked? What does violence look like? I mean, it's more than just physical, it's emotional. Are you drained from that relationship? So, those are some of the great things that we have the opportunity to do, the prevention side. So, we try to be proactive, not
Mhm.
reactive to these situations. So, how can we prevent this from happening? And I always tell people, if we have one sexual assault on campus, that's one too many. So, we need to start finding ways to reduce that on our campus. So being proactive is what we're doing. We think about prevention, but then we also think about this student will not only leave campus, but they will have to go into the community. So we try to connect them with resources as well that are in the community. Absolutely. I think when we look at MSU population, we do see that our LGBTQ plus population is growing. But I think one of the mistakes that we also make is that it only happens to women, and it doesn't just happen to women. So sexual assault, stalking, dating, violence, all of that actually happened to men as well. And I think we have to change the culture of our state, as well as just being Southern in general. We have to change that one step at a time. And I think it's important for us to see um, what that looks like. So that means connecting with the LGBTQ plus population. That means doing specific programming for them, but also specific programming for men. And I know I've kind of been on a few webinars while I've been at home, but there is a healthy masculinity project, and then there's a Men Can Stop Rape project. And so there are some things that I would love to see come on our campus. And I think just sitting in those spaces with those students to hear from them is very important, because I'm not a part of the LGBTQ plus population, or I can't relate to men. So I think it's very important to have those conversations. One thing that I wanted to do, even when I was a health and wellness educator and I oversaw alcohol and other drugs, I wanted to be strategic about that programming, because alcohol looks different for both men and women, but then also the LGBTQ plus international. So you have to make sure that you connect with them in order to make a difference. one of the things that Mississippi has some work to do is resources. And so when you look at Starkville, the nearest shelter is Safe Haven. Even though it's 30 minutes away, anything can happen in 30 minutes,
Mm,
just like anything can happen in 5 minutes. But I think with us, we have to have more resources. And so that is the nearest shelter for us. There is a shelter in Tupelo, there is a shelter in Jackson, but the nearest one is Safe Haven Domestic Violence Shelter. And not all of our students probably don't know about that resource being actually available. And so one of the greatest things is we have someone who is a part of our coordinated community response team who is able to pick up the phone when we call, and we can connect with them to see what's available. How can we provide support to students? And so we don't want students to feel like they can't report, because there's so much stigma tied to reporting, what
mm,
that looks like, from the complaint to actually having a case and things like that. So I think we have to be I'm not going to say vulnerable, but I think we have to be more engaged about the conversation of what that looks like, and for people not to be afraid to stand up for what they know is right. And
mm,
so I think for our students, if they suspect any domestic violence going on, you have the right to report it, because you don't want to see someone being put in danger and something happens later on. So, like I said, that's the closest domestic violence shelter that we do have. Now, we have some rape crisis centers around the state, and I can definitely forward that to you.
mm,
But as I stated, we are very limited in our area. And if you just look at the state, there are some areas that it may take an hour to get to a crisis center or to a shelter. So just thinking about that kind of for Mississippi, where we stand. You touched on a lot of great things. As I stated, this month is Sexual Assault Awareness Month. Things look so different because it's virtually, but
mm,
we are trying to provide information. I think the biggest conversation now for our students is, what is consent? What does that look like?
mm.
Um, what are healthy and unhealthy relationships and boundaries? So those are just some of the things that I would love for students to become more aware of, and just the services and programs that we actually provide for them.